Hi, I'm attorney Greg Dell, joined by attorney Cesar Gavidia. And Cesar, we're going to talk about, in these videos, we want to talk about the history of this case, what you were able to do. Then we'll provide some tips for people so they can learn potentially how to avoid a denial, or if they've been denied, how do we help people so that we can help them to overcome their denial. So give us the background of this case.
So our client was a registered nurse. She had been working for many years for the University of California and their medical system there. And around 2021, she was unfortunately diagnosed with breast cancer. And she successfully underwent treatment. But unfortunately, as often is the case, the treatment has a lot of terrible side effects. She underwent the surgery to remove the cancer. She had to also undergo chemotherapy. The treatment just really left her functionally in a bad place. She couldn't return back to work. She was approved for benefits with Lincoln. They paid her from basically 2021 all the way through 2025. And as you know, somewhere in there, the definition of disability changed from own occupation to any occupation. They approved her through that. What that means is that now Lincoln wasn't determining whether she was disabled just from her own occupation, but also from any occupation she qualified to do, potentially even sedentary occupations, right? So they paid her any occupation benefits, and then suddenly they decided they were going to send her to an independent medical exam.
This is after about 4 years of pay.
About 4 years. Once you're approved, or if you're approved for benefits, it's not a permanent thing. It's not that the insurance company can now never look at you again or review your claim again. There's always potentially the possibility they could review you. And in this case, they could even send you to a medical exam.
Right.
And that's what they did. And of course, Lincoln presumably provided, they said they provided all of her medical records to the examiner. She attended the examination. And there wasn't really, at least from what she reported, nothing really all that unusual about the examination. The doctor went through questions with her. He told her he reviewed the records. He did an examination, and then she left. And a short while later, she receives a denial letter from Lincoln. And of course, the basis of the denial was the findings from this independent medical examiner, or this medical examiner. I call him independent.
Probably a cut and paste of his report.
A lot of it, yeah. Or just paraphrasing of what things were, the findings and conclusions from the report. Told her she could appeal the decision within 180 days. Okay, and that's when she reached out to us. So I reviewed, when I received the case, when she contacted us, and I was able to review the denial, and I was able to review kind of the circumstance of the case with her and go over everything. What I really found unusual was the findings from this examiner that they sent her to, and the things he actually observed in the examination, and then the conclusions he came out with. They didn't even seem consistent. And of course, there was no other functional testing they sent her to or anything like that. So when I undertook the appeal, I wanted to ensure that we did functional testing, which was never done by Lincoln. And really, there was no reason for her doctors to ever send her to it. It's nothing that is part of a treatment plan or anything that they really need to continue treating her or providing care to her. But we did it because we wanted to assess, well, what were her true functional capabilities? What are her functional limitations? And based on what she was reporting to us, I knew that she just probably wouldn't perform really very well in the functional testing. And that would be a really solid piece of evidence for us. I also wanted to do a vocational assessment because I don't think that they really gave her a very fair assessment of her vocation, of her education, even of her earning capabilities. And all that also in light of what her restrictions are that her doctors were giving and the limitations that she was having. So of course, when we did that, the functional testing was very supportive. It established she was not able to perform any sedentary occupation. By the way, all consistent with what Lincoln's original findings were, but inconsistent with what this IME doctor's findings were, who never performed any sort of functional testing of her. Found that even in the observations that he made in his exam, that she did note swelling and different things that she reported to her doctors, and there was a long history of with her medical records. And we basically attacked that IME and the decision that Lincoln made. And within a month, month and a half after we submitted that appeal, we got a favorable resolution from Lincoln, and they overturned the decision.
That's a fantastic outcome. When you obtained all of this additional testing that you got, and I like that you talked about how the doctors didn't do it, because some people go, why didn't the treating doctors do that?
Mhm.
And I always tell people that the treating doctors treat the patient, not the chart. They're not going to go out and do this type of forensic type testing to see how much you can sit, how long you can stand, can you bend, can you twist. They don't really care about that. They just want to know your symptoms. They want to try to get you to feel better. What you can or can't do, if you want to lie to your doctor, that's up to you. The doctor wants to treat you, treat your symptoms and say, this is the medicine I think you should take. This is the therapy I think you should do. This is an injection I think you can get, or this is how it's going to be. Unfortunately, we'll try to, monitor you and keep you comfortable in terms of what we can do, but there's some permanent side effects of undergoing, in this case, some kind of chemotherapy or whatever the types of treatment were. And unfortunately, your body reacts differently. And now you have other conditions that have developed. And this is how it's going to be. And if you do these other types of activities, which may be related to work, they're going to exacerbate your conditions, or it's normal that you can't go and sit in office for more than 6 hours a day at a desk, 40 hours a week. So we support that. And for the insurance company to say, oh no, we think you're fine, go do any job in the entire world, is ridiculous. So we go out and get the testing, like you said, and then bring it back to the doctors, which is what you did, and say, do you agree with this testing? Is it reasonable testing? Are the results reasonable in light of your examination of the patient? And then why did the IME doctor find this? And why do you disagree with it?
Right.
And you put it all together and you make a nice presentation in terms of what you do in your letter as well as the physical evidence. But the real physical evidence that you obtained is like 90% of the work that was done. That's the secret sauce. That's what takes the skill, the 20 years of experience to get to that, because you only get one bite of the apple in terms of doing this. And I say that because if this claimant had tried to do something on her own, she would have never got put together what you put together, and then were to call you to say they denied me, we can't put in any more evidence because the law doesn't allow for that. Not that we don't want to. So you have to throw all your cards on the table, hold nothing back, and get that evidence in there. So you did a phenomenal job in this case of doing that. And now the claimant who would have thought, I have cancer, I overcame that, I'm a survivor, and I'm going to continue to fight and hopefully be there for my family and everyone, but I can't go back to that type of job because not only do I have the physical, there's also cognitive aspects of being in pain. And that leads to my inability to focus and do everything else. So congratulations on this outcome. And if there's someone out there who has a Lincoln financial policy, whether it's short-term or long-term disability, feel free to reach out to Cesar or myself. We've helped hundreds of people with claims just like yours, whether it's Lincoln, whether it's a cancer claim. No matter where you live in the country, we're available to assist you, and we'll always provide you with a free phone consultation.